Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my video. Today I want to talk about the current design trends that most cars tend to follow, and I also want to propose my take on a new design trend that I think will become more popular in the coming years. And to cut right to the chase, here it is. Generally speaking, this is what I think we'll start to see more of in the near future. It's an efficient and intelligent shape that makes best use of the available space. So it looks revolutionary, but not at the expense of its ergonomics. In fact, its ergonomics are improved over anything else its size. And regarding the aesthetics, it's a pretty big leap into a more modern design language. It'll make even the most advanced cars today look dated. It's a bold yet feasible design. We'll talk more about this design a little bit later. Back to the topic of current design trends, where are we today? When you look around, you'll notice that most cars fall into two categories. Generally speaking, we can call them sedans or wagons. Of course, there are nuances like SUVs and so-called four-door coupes, but you could easily group both of those into the wagon and sedan classes respectively. The shape of these two categories can be described as either a three-box shape for a sedan and a two-box shape for a wagon. So why do almost all cars fall into these categories? Well, for a long time, the shape of a car was dictated by its technical specifications more than anything else. For example, you needed space for a certain sized engine, a set number of occupants, and a specific amount of cargo. But really, it was the engine that caused these general shapes more than anything else. Up until about 10 years ago, engines occupied a relatively large amount of space. They also have fuel tanks and cooling systems that occupy a decent amount of room as well. So the best place to put the engine was either in front of the cabin or behind it. Makes sense. However, over the last decade, there have been huge advancements in technology that allow traditional gasoline engines to be packaged very efficiently and in small places. There's also more flexibility with their shape, and their displacements have gone down thanks in part to turbocharging. To further press this point, there's also been a surge of interest in electric vehicles, which have powertrains that occupy even less space. And their batteries can be shaped as a flat plane, which barely occupies any usable space at all. With these advancements, the design constraints that necessitated either a sedan or wagon shape have disappeared. Interestingly, pretty much all car manufacturers are still making cars that use a two or three box shape. Strange, right? Even Tesla, the market leader for electric vehicles, still uses these shapes. So why is that? You can liken this to early television. Since it was a new thing back then, the TV stations didn't know what to do with this new technology. So the first television shows were just radio shows where they simply taped the studio set while the host talked. Frankly, they could have done much of what we see today, but they just didn't know any better at the time. I think this is largely the case with car designs today. So why does this even matter? Well, here's the problem. These traditional shapes are not the best use of space. This is particularly true with sedans, but also with wagons. When you look at their shapes, you can see that the area over the hood and the trunk are wasted space. You don't need that long hood anymore, so why not incorporate a one-box shape and make use of all that space? With this design, I really focused on making as much usable space as possible, while still offering something that's pleasing on the eye. The goal was to make something that looks great and revolutionary, but not at the expense of its ergonomics. I'm pretty confident that was achieved. In fact, it actually has improved ergonomics over anything in its class. So essentially, it offers 7 series space with a 3 series footprint. This was achieved mainly by using an electric powertrain and pushing the wheels out to the extremities. Most importantly, it uses a one-box shape. The design is unmistakable for anything else out there. However, unlike so many of these extremely futuristic concepts that you see everywhere, this one's actually feasible. And I really mean that. Just do a Google search for future car design, and hundreds of results will come up, and count how many of those are feasible. I'll give you a hint, it's not many. Furthermore, the ones that are don't really improve the ergonomics or utility of the car. This one does. Speaking of the design, it was inspired by 3 things. The front of the car was influenced by a fighter jet cockpit. There's a lot of glass everywhere, and it results in a very open feeling where you're better aware of your surroundings. The rear of the car was inspired by Formula One. Here you can see the distinct open-wheel design of the rear. And then the silhouette was inspired by sport bikes. It has a very forward-leaning stance that looks really poised. The design also offers unprecedented visibility. With an incredibly low dash and a very forward seating position, you can see the ground only a few feet ahead of the car. The rear has an additional window positioned below the belt line that allows you to see very close behind you as well. The front and rear visibility is so good that you probably won't even need to use your parking sensors. The doors are also mostly glass. They offer even more visibility and openness. A neat feature is that they're photochromic with a default tint, so you can change them from transparent to translucent or even fully opaque. Another neat feature of the doors is that the windows open in almost one giant piece. This is a really unique effect that has almost a convertible-like feel. The doors open with a falcon wing action similar to the Tesla Model X, and there's only one door on each side. There isn't really a point in having 4 doors if you can open them like this. These large openings make it incredibly easy to get in and out. Speaking of the interior, there's some serious space. The headroom is insane. It's a truly unique feeling when you can barely touch the ceiling. The rear footroom is comparable to that of a Mercedes S-Class, perhaps even more. The whole environment is very sophisticated and comfortable. Openness is a theme of the interior. Even things like rain are enjoyable when you have a greenhouse like this over your head. The design is fully compliant with regulations, at least to my knowledge. The front is very blunt and tall enough to meet the required standards, and the sloping windshield also helps. So there you have it. I hope you like the design. There's actually more to it, like the revolutionary user interface, as well as the active safety features, so be sure to check out the user interface videos when you have a chance. Thanks again for watching.